Older adults, test your brain sharpness at home with 3 simple exercises. Well, I want to start with a very straightforward question, perhaps a little sensitive, but extremely important for all of us, those who have entered the golden age of life. Have you ever forgotten where you put your reading glasses? Or told a really interesting story and suddenly forgot where you were talking about? At first, it might just be a few small things, then you reassure yourself that, oh, I must have been too busy today. But then the forgetting happens more and more often, making you suddenly startled. Is my memory failing? Is my mind not as sharp as before? I know that feeling very well, because I have experienced it myself. And what worries me the most is not forgetting the name of an acquaintance or forgetting to lock the door, but the fear, is this the first sign of a more serious problem, like cognitive decline or even dementia? Don't worry too soon. The truth is, our brains, like our bodies, change over time. But change does not mean degeneration. And it is important that we know how to test ourselves to understand our current condition. Just like we measure our blood pressure and blood sugar to know how our body is, the brain also has indicators that we can completely evaluate at home, without complicated machines or having to go to the hospital. And that is what I want to explore with you today. In this video, we will experience 3 very simple tests, no equipment, no time, but can clearly tell you about the clarity, memory, and agility of the brain. These are tests used in many studies in the US, not only easy to do but also have real scientific value. For example, at Columbia University in New York, they have used similar tests to screen for early signs of dementia in older adults. And you know, the great thing is that you can do these tests yourself at home, in the morning when your mind is fresh, or in the evening when you want to relax before going to bed. These tests are like a mirror, reflecting your brain condition honestly. And when you know where you are, you know what you need to do to improve. Honestly, observing your memory and mental clarity should not be something to worry about, but an act of care, like watering a plant, fertilizing it. Your brain needs the same care. And the earlier you start, the better, because then everything is under control. So if you're wondering if you're still as sharp as you used to be, or if you just want to stay sharp every day, then stay until the end of this video. Because the final test, considered the clearest illumination for cognitive ability, will be shared at the end, and I believe you will be surprised by it. But first, let's start with the first test. It's simple, but prepare for a little surprise. Imagine you're walking into a room, and I say to you, remember the 3 words I'm about to say. Then after a few minutes, I'll ask you again if you remember them. Now, are you ready? The first word is car. The second word, bridge. And the third word, apple. Okay, let's temporarily forget those 3 words. Don't try to remember them right away. I'll remind you later, and you'll see how many you can remember. Now, while your brain is still processing those 3 words in the background, let's move on to the second part of the first test, your ability to concentrate and think flexibly. This is what neuroscientists call executive ability, which is the brain's ability to control complex activities like planning, paying attention, and reacting quickly. Try this. Count backwards from 100 to 0, but not one number at a time, but in sevens. That is, 100, 93, 86, 79, and so on. Do it slowly, not fast, but notice how easily you get confused, how long you have to stop to calculate. This is one of the tests used at the Mayo Clinic Geriatric Center, famous for its extensive research on cognitive decline and old age in the United States. They call this test the Serial Sevens test. If you find yourself struggling to do this, that's normal. But if you can't continue after 3 or 4 steps, it could be a sign of a slight decline in your ability to concentrate. But don't worry, not everyone can do it smoothly. The important thing is to know your current limits so you can practice more. Now, back to those 3 words. Remember them? Car, bridge, and can you say the 3rd word? Yes, apple. If you can remember all 3, that's a very positive sign for your short-term memory. If you can only remember 2, that's fine. This is normal for many people over 65. But if you can only remember 1 word, or if you find it difficult to remember, then you should start working on your memory every day. Simple exercises like memorizing a short poem or recalling 3 things you did yesterday can also improve your short-term memory in surprising ways. The interesting thing is that many people who take this test are surprised at themselves. An old friend of mine in Oregon, she used to think her memory was bad, but when she took this test regularly every week, she realized that her memory improved after a month. It turns out that the brain is like a muscle. Practice makes progress, quit makes regress. And one more thing, everyone is different. Some people are very good at remembering names but forget what needs to be done. Others are the opposite. The important thing is to know clearly where your strengths and weaknesses are so that you can take care of the parts that need taking care of. How did you feel after taking the first test? If you were a little surprised, a little excited, or even a little worried, that is a completely natural reaction. But don't keep those feelings to yourself. Share them in the comments below. I would love to know how many words you remembered, or how many numbers you counted to in that reverse math problem. Your sharing will motivate others, and you might even find a companion who has the same experience as you. Now, let's move on to the second test, a test that doesn't require any calculations, but can reveal a lot about your brain's agility and information processing ability. So, don't take your eyes off the screen. The second test is waiting for you right away. This is a lighter test, but a lot of fun. This test is called the Category Fluency Test. It sounds complicated, but it's actually very simple. All you have to do is, in 60 seconds, list as many words as you can from a specific topic group. For example, I'll say, names of fruits. Your job is to name all the fruits you can remember: bananas, oranges, grapefruits, mangoes, pineapples, etc. As many as you can, within 1 minute. Let's try it now. Are you ready? I won't time it too precisely, just count in your head or use a nearby clock. Here we go, name fruits in 1 minute. Go! Okay, time's up. Now try to count how many you can name. If you can name more than 15 in 1 minute, congratulations, that's a very good result, showing that your brain is still very flexible in naming and organizing information. If you are at 10 to 14, that's still a normal index, no need to worry too much. But if you can only name less than 10, or you feel like your brain is blocked after the first 4 to 5 names, then this could be a sign that your information retrieval speed is slowing down. This test has actually been used in many studies since the 1980s. A large study at the University of California found that people over 65 who consistently performed well on the word listing test had a 40% lower risk of dementia than those who performed poorly on the test. Because this seemingly simple test actually tests multiple skills at once: long-term memory retrieval, language flexibility, and the ability to organize information into groups. If you want to test yourself again, I can suggest another topic. This time, animal names. Start by listing how many animals you can remember in 60 seconds. Mice, cats, chickens, elephants, fish, birds, turtles, monkeys, just keep going. Each time you do it again, you're giving your brain a workout, and it's that repetition that's valuable. A cousin of mine is in his 80s. He doesn't know about technology, doesn't use a smartphone, but every morning he does a test like this. One day he names flowers, another day he names Vietnamese dishes. Another day he named cities in the central region. And you know what? He's so sharp that he can still read books, remember the names of the new neighbors who moved into the neighborhood, and most importantly, he never misses the time to take his medicine, something that many people 20 years younger than him often forget. So you see, although your brain is getting older, if you know how to feed it and exercise it, it will still be very healthy. Just like a person who walks regularly every day, the tendons and bones will be more durable and flexible. The same goes for the brain. The test just now is one of the forms of walking for the brain. And you see, no matter what age you are, you can still actively observe and nurture your clarity. No one understands your brain better than you. And these tests, although simple, are the first door to help you realize where your brain is on the journey of aging. But that's not all. We still have one more test, a test that is considered a golden indicator for the overall cognitive ability of the elderly. This is a test that has been recommended by the International Alzheimer's Association as a first step in detecting early cognitive decline. It's easy to do, requires no equipment, and can reveal a lot about how your brain works in everyday life. I'll share that third test in the next part. And I believe you won't just do it once, but will want to try it again and again to discover your true abilities. Do you remember the 3 words in the first part? Car, bridge, apple. If you still remember them, that's a great sign. If not, that's okay, because what you're doing now is the path to remembering them longer, clearer, and more clearly. See you in the next part, where we'll explore the final test, which is also the most interesting test for the aging brain. Now for the final test, the third test, which many neuroscientists consider to be one of the simplest and most effective ways to assess the brain's ability to think logically and process information. This test is called clock drawing, and all you need is a pen and a blank sheet of paper. Now, imagine a round clock face in front of you. Draw a circle like a clock face on the paper. Then, mark the numbers 1 to 12 in the correct positions on the circle, just like the clock face you look at every day. When you're done, draw 2 hands on the clock. 1 hour hand, 1 minute hand. And here's the requirement, place the hands on the clock at 11:10. That's the whole test. It sounds easy, but as you'll see, not everyone gets it right the first time. Some people forget to leave the spaces between the numbers evenly. Some people draw the wrong clock direction. Some people put the hour and minute hands in the wrong places. And all of these are not just small errors in drawing, but signs that the brain is receiving and processing information correctly. A Canadian study published in the journal Neuropsychology showed that more than 80% of seniors with early signs of dementia made mistakes when doing this clock drawing test. On the contrary, people who are still sharp, even though they are over 75 years old, still do the test very well, drawing the clock accurately, dividing the numbers evenly and placing the hour and minute hands in the right places without thinking too long. Try reviewing your drawing. If you divide the numbers 1 to 12 correctly around the circle, place the short hour hand on the number 11, the long minute hand on the number 2, i.e. 10 minutes, then congratulations. Your brain is still coordinating well between memory, visual spatial ability, and fine motor control of the hand. But if you find yourself getting stuck at a certain point, for example, you're not sure where the minute hand should be pointing, or you're writing the numbers unevenly, this isn't something to be afraid of. It's just a reminder that it's time to give your brain a little more exercise. Someone asked me, does drawing a clock like this every day help your brain? The answer is yes. Practicing this skill regularly, not just drawing a clock, but also drawing a floor plan, a map of a familiar street, or objects you remember, helps your brain retain its ability to orient and organize information better. That's why many neurologists often recommend that older adults learn to draw, or play games like puzzles, jigsaw puzzles, or coloring. not because it's pretty, but because it's a very effective way to give your brain a gym. There is an old man who lives near my house. He used to be a math teacher and has been retired for a long time. Every morning, he draws a clock face and changes the time every day. One day it is 3:20, the next day it is 6:45. Sometimes he draws both a digital and an analog clock. Now, even though he is over 80 years old, he is still very agile, speaks in an orderly manner, remembers the names of his grandchildren, and even helps people in the neighborhood calculate money when they have a common task. He often jokes, "Practicing with the clock is a way to keep the time from running out in my head." It sounds simple, but it is truly profound. Because old age is not as scary as letting yourself gradually forget the things you once knew and understood. And the 3 tests we just did together, word recall, topic naming, and clock drawing, are little windows for us to look back at ourselves, see where our brain is, what it needs, and how much clarity we still have in it. If you feel like you're not doing well in any area, don't worry. Because the fact that you're paying attention to your memory and cognition is a huge step forward. There are people who go through their entire lives without ever asking, "Is my brain still as agile as it used to be?" But you're asking, doing, testing, and that's really valuable. If you find these tests useful, you can share them with your friends, family, or even do them together every week. The more people who practice, the more brains are preserved. Don't forget to let me know you're interested in topics like this. And please click subscribe to not miss the next shares, because I will be back with more practical, gentle, and close content specifically for our age. And finally, no matter what your test results are, always remember, old age wisdom is not only about how much you remember, but also about how you choose to live, whether you love yourself, are patient with yourself, and are proactive in practicing every day. I wish you always keep a clear mind, observant eyes, and a heart that is always eager to learn, because those are the clearest signs of clarity. Thank you for accompanying me today. See you in the next video.